Welcome back to day 3 here at the cabin on my solo writing retreat. I had a great day yesterday. Man, I actually started a little later than I would have liked to. Kind of gave myself a bit of a slow morning, caught up on some things, and I'm not doing social media really. I'm not answering emails or things like that, but there are a few things that come through that because I have XERUS out here, I do feel the need to check up on. So I did some of that yesterday. And then I just dove in full force. It looked like just a great day ahead of me anyways because the sun was shining. We were supposed to get snow yesterday, didn't happen. I was a little bummed about that because I would have loved to see the snow in this huge window. But you know what? That's okay because I was able to take another amazing 2-mile hike, did it faster this time, which was nice. And then came back and did more writing. So it looked basically like, I think I wrote until about, probably about like 2. I stopped for a break for some apples and peanut butter, maybe around like 12, and then that kind of tied me over. And I didn't eat lunch till around 2, and then I took my walk around 3, and then came back, did more writing, braked for a late dinner, watched a movie, kind of relaxed, and then did another about hour and a half on writing before I went to bed. So all told, yesterday I wrote over 12,000 words. I did not do any plot work because I didn't really need to. I wouldn't say I didn't do any, but I shifted a few things around, but that was already existing. So I didn't come up with anything new. I just kind of really dug into what I had on my list of this is what happens next, this is what happens next, etc. And that was clearly the right way to go. I think when I broke for dinner, I had over 9,000 words written for the day total. And before I came out here, as I mentioned in my previous video, I decided exactly what I was going to do. Well, maybe not exactly, but I wrote out what I'd like to do each day, word count wise. And since I came in without a really detailed plot on the first day, I didn't get the 4,000 words in that I really wanted to. And that kind of made me bummed, but as I said in the previous video, I was okay with it because I had much more of a fleshed out plot, so I knew what I was going to write for the rest of my time here. Well, yesterday I decided maybe I can make that up. So I had said I wanted to write 4,000 words the first day and then 8,000 words yesterday, today, and tomorrow. No. Monday, yesterday, and today, because today's my last full day. And then tomorrow I have on my schedule to write another 4,000 words. So that would have put me at 20,000 words yesterday. And when I kind of took stock of where I was at and what I was doing, I was like, you know what? I could write a little bit more. And I have this weird habit that maybe it comes from being a ghostwriter and just knowing that words meant I can have food on the table this week. I looked at it, I was at 22,500 something. And I was like, 400 more words, I can do that. So I ended at 23,000 total for the whole project right now. So that has brought me through, I think about chapter 12 or 13, I think. I have up to chapter 22 or 23 plotted out. And like I said, that brings me well to basically the brink of the doorway of no return, or maybe just past it, give or take how I decide to do that. And I have a feeling that some of those chapters might end up being a little shorter just because I do write short chapters, especially when it comes to just having so many points of view. We don't need to spend a ton of time in everyone's head to know what's going on, aside from our main couple. So in thinking through all of those things, I have a few goals set out for today. Obviously, I want to at least get 8,000 words written because that's what I had on my schedule, but I have a good feeling I could do at least 10 or more, especially because I'm getting an earlier start than I did yesterday. And then my second goal is to have more of the plot thought out. I kind of look at it as today is my big hurrah in a sense because I leave tomorrow by 11. So I do want to clean up some things so I don't have a massive cleanup tomorrow so I can get some more words in before I go home and have to face reality, dishes, laundry, dogs, cat, husband, all of those things. I miss them all and I want to be there, but they are a distraction. Let's be honest. Anyways, so what I'm thinking of doing is writing like crazy up until lunch, which is probably gonna be a late lunch because I made apple pancakes today. They were so good. I used the Kodiak Cakes mix, delicious. But I'm like stuffed because it was just like, they were big pancakes. I overestimated how much overestimated how much I needed. Anyways, so I'm going to do my best to just like cram in all the words and see how far I can get in this like existing outline. Then I'm going to stop, have lunch, and either write a little bit more or take a walk then. I'm not sure. It's like when I woke up this morning, it was 0 degrees outside, so it's really cold, but I also can't stay in this room for the entire day. It's just not good for my health or for just like being here all day. So I will definitely go and take a walk, and hopefully to do that 2 miles one more time, just because it does feel really good. Like I feel tired when I come back. And I think that's kind of the point, right? Is that when I go to bed, I do want to feel like I want to sleep. So do that. And then while I'm doing that, I'm going to be thinking through this forward plot. So I look over here because I've got my like whiteboard set out of all the things that I'm like, all these people, all these things have to happen with all these people. And so my goal is not going to be to have like a specific outline, like chapter this, chapter that, but to fit in these things that I know are like landmarks that I want to happen within my existing plot structure. Now, the beauty of that is that it's all flexible, and I am a very intuitive writer, so I know when I get to a scene that I have said, oh, this is what comes next. If it's not right, it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to skip past it, or I'm going to move it. I did that yesterday. I had a perspective of Tally's, which y'all know from the first book. And she was supposed to do a couple of things in that scene. And when I really jumped in to write it, it felt too soon. And it felt like the second half of what I had like suggested that she would be doing was going to either give too much away too early on, or like start things too soon. And so I was like, you know what, I'm going to just give people a little taste, and then we'll bring back what I really need her and Renner to do later on. And I honestly think that's going to be better for the pace of the plot anyways. And I'm big on pacing. So that is kind of where I'll plot and I'll plan and I'll think in my head of like, okay, yeah, that's like raising the stakes, or yes, this is getting them closer to their goal or not. But in the moment, it all depends on how it feels, right? So if you're, early on in your writing career and you're still working on how those things feel, it's going to take a little bit more time, and you might be a little more diligent to stick to that plot outline. Like when it says, okay, I need to, this is a pinch point, so something needs to happen here. You might be like, well, it may not feel right, but they're saying that in the plot it needs to go here. And so you fit that in, and that just might work with your overall structure. Or you put it in and then you read through, you're like, this doesn't work. So you go back and shift that. No harm, no foul in any of that. But to me, I've written so many books. Again, a lot of those were ghostwriting books, but that really like settles the plot very firmly in my mind of like, does this feel like the next right thing these characters would be doing? And I can't teach that to anyone. I can't teach you to feel a certain way. But I do think that the more that you write, the more those things will settle in, and you'll be able to kind of almost anticipate what's coming next, or what needs to come next. Even if that's something as simple as like, okay, something big has to happen now. And that is one last thing I'll share here, because to me, this is my first official time writing a third book. Now, I have other series under different pen names, but they're very different series. So for example, my Winter Montana series, I write under my pen name Belle Renshaw. It's a sweet romance, and it follows different brothers and then relatives of the Bradley family. Well, there's 5 books in that series, so I've written all of those. But the problem is that yes, they progress, and yes, the timeline is still moving, but book 3 doesn't really depend on book 1. Like, I suggest you read them in order, but you definitely don't have to. Whereas with a trilogy, book 3s have high expectations. They have so much to wrap up if you've done your job well and left a lot of unwrapped up things in the other books, which I've tried to do. And they also have to feel independent, right? Every book in a series has its own kind of feeling. I would say book 1 was my exploration in a sense, where I'm luring you into the world and you're experiencing it through you're experiencing it through Renner and Tally's perspective. And that's all that you see, and that's all you need to see, because there's still just like the unknown that's out in the galaxy, because it starts with them and their romance. But then you move into book 2, and man, Falling Through the Black was so fun to write, because it had that extra added viewpoint of an unknown character, and it had me bringing back Renner and Tally, but like, in small little doses. And it really focused on Leaf and Merritt, who are a very different couple than Renner and Tally. So that was fun too, but also I like broadened perspective, right? You got to see more of the galaxy. You got to see a whole nother side of it because of that. This would be your 5th perspective person in there. And I won't do any spoilers here or anything, but that was a lot of fun. But now book 3 is like, the scope is very wide because it needs to be. And it's almost like, I can't think of a good visual, but everything is converging. Everything is coming together, and it needs to be tied up in that nice little bow, or at least close to it at the end, which I believe in for my readers, because I believe in it as a reader myself. So that is definitely something that I'm working towards in order to make the book feel epic and exciting and fast-paced. And yet I feel like, and I won't know until I go and do my read through, especially this first portion of it, because it's my just first foray into Rising from the Galaxy, but it feels a little slower to me, and I don't like that. And I'll have to see. I mean, end of the day, I do at least one more read through, probably 2. I write pretty clean. So what I'm coming up with right now, I feel relatively confident. Now, I wouldn't send it to my editor as is, because it definitely needs me to read through it at least one more time. But I would say it's close. It's close to what you, the reader, would get, minus some like, oh, we don't need this sentence, or, oh, I need to add in more description or whatever. And obviously, like, my editor then is looking for, did I leave any holes? Did I not fulfill promises that I set up in the last books, things like that. But I would say that like it's close to where I would like it to be. And so I have to ask myself, is the pacing an issue, or is it okay because it's a book 3 and because I'm setting up so much to be fulfilled at the end of the book? So those are all the things that I'm kind of like fighting through with this book. And I think that's why it's going to take me a little bit longer than it normally would, especially like a first book, because there's so much that has gone before, and like so many times I have to stop and be like, what did I call that? And like, what did I say? And where did they go? And have to search through the past books to kind of, it kind of halts my momentum. So that's making it a bit of a challenge. But anyways, it's getting long. So I am going to go hop into my writing. Here's to 8 to 10 to maybe 12K. I don't know. I want to go shoot for the stars. But I definitely want to finish some additional plotting towards the end of the book. So when I inevitably get to the end of what I have foreseen so far, when I'm back at home, it's not going to take me a whole weekend to plot the rest. It can be maybe a short thing here and there where I plot out the next like 20 chapters or whatever, and do it in increments to make sure that everything is still aligning. So, all right, see y'all later.